Thank you, Victor and Natalie. Now let's look at the project timeline form, checklist item number 7, which the instructions are on page 39, and then pages 40 and 41 contain the form. So it's important to note this form is designed to be a planning tool for applicants. Be sure to only complete the tasks that specifically pertain to your project. For items that are not applicable, please indicate NA or not applicable with NA instead of deleting the item. And Sam, if you can go to the next page, I'd like to show the top two as an example. So as you can see, a development project would not require you to complete the first 2 tasks on the form. So you would simply indicate NA. The project timeline involves working with other agencies with approval responsibilities. Past grantees from other programs have been surprised at how long different permits can take. This form is designed to help avoid surprises by assisting with identifying the estimated time period to complete each task and ensuring the timeline is reasonable and accounts for potential unforeseen circumstances. The form has 5 columns, as you can see. The first is a task to be completed. The second and third are the start and end dates for each task. The fourth is where the name and contact for each task's lead agency should be identified. And the fifth is for any potential delays or issues that should be noted for each task. The project timeline form must be signed by the person designated in the authorizing resolution. Now let's turn to page 42, Applicant Capacity, which is checklist item number 8. The top paragraphs give background about the purpose of this requirement. Responses to 1 through 4 on page 42 will be used to identify an applicant's capacity to not only complete the project, but also to ensure that there is adequate operation and maintenance for 30 years. Respond to the 4 questions regarding previous park or other construction projects, annual operation and maintenance costs of the proposed project, operation and maintenance funding sources, and a web link to the applicant's current park inventory. Now let's turn to pages 43 and 44, and we'll take a look at CEQA and the CEQA Compliance Certification Form, which is checklist item number 9. All right, please preview the form on page 44 before we get into the details. All right, now that you've had a chance to take a look at the form, let's go to the instructions on page 43. Two documents are required for this checklist item. The CEQA Compliance Certification Form that we just previewed on page 44, and either a notice of exemption or notice of determination that has been filed with or stamped by the county clerk. The notice of exemption or notice of determination must cover the project scope. For development projects, the CEQA document must allow for construction. For acquisition projects, a notice of exemption to acquire the property is required. Upon close of escrow, the applicant can begin the CEQA analysis for construction, which is due 6 months after the close of escrow. The goal is to complete the CEQA requirement at the time of application or within 3 months after the application deadline. If CEQA is not complete by November 5th, please provide an explanation of what the next steps will be in order to complete the CEQA Notice of Exemption or Notice of Determination. Please use the chat feature if you have any questions about any of the 3 forms that I've just discussed. And I just want to check in with Victor and see if there's anything he'd like to respond to for the whole group.
Yeah, really interesting question. Thank you. Thanks, Megan. Very interesting question from Carrie. And the question is it's that if we are applying for another grant and we're not sure if that other grant's going to be awarded, can we ask for the full amount and then decrease the grant amount later? Okay, great question. So this is what I'll propose here, and it could get a little tricky on timing. You can definitely reduce your grant request during the competitive process if you secure additional funds. So let's say you're waiting to hear, hopefully you can hear, well, the application deadline is November. Okay, so let's just say that the announcements will be made January, February of 2022 from your other funding source you're applying for. And if you are successful, you can definitely contact us and say, hey, instead of asking for $3 million, I got a $1 million grant awarded, so now I want to decrease the grant request down to $2 million. We'll just have you revise some forms. You'll just revise a few documents to decrease your grant amount. Obviously, we'll have you update your funding sources form, but it gets trickier if the grant's already awarded. At that point, at that point, like that money could have gone to another project or another region. So, we hope to avoid awarding grants to agencies that don't need the money because we don't like to leave money on the table. So what would happen is, we'll talk about that later, but hopefully that answers your question. Yes, you can definitely decrease your grant amount during the competitive process. But we don't like to award grants and then find out that you don't need the money after the grants are awarded and you're already under contract, because that can get that can lead towards the money not being spent. Okay, thank you. Also, we have a question. Just to be clear, we'll get into eligible costs more, but we do have a question about the 30-year operation and maintenance, and if the grants can also pay for that. And the answer is no. Only costs that are associated with the acquisition of land or the construction of land is eligible, not long-term operation and maintenance. Okay, thank you.